Welcome to our new program of Changing Tracks. I hope you all have been enjoying this series where we each week have a new passenger aboard to tell their conversion story. Today we have with us Dana. Welcome, Dana. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how old you are, a little bit about your family life growing up.
Well, I'm Dana. I'm 18 years old and I'm from California. I have 5 brothers and 1 sister, and I was raised Catholic. My mom is a convert to Catholicism, so growing up, she was very on fire for the faith, so she definitely made sure that we learned all these things, and we understood the sacraments, and we understood why we were going to church on Sundays, not just something that we did. Growing up, I think my brothers and I, we were
Really blessed to have a good mom.
A good mom. And we were all homeschooled, so we weren't put into that,
the school environment where you have the typical peer pressures to get into things that maybe you didn't want to do. Was that hard for you to be homeschooled?
Yes, that was definitely really hard for me. I hated being homeschooled. But it's a good thing that my mom kept me there, because if not, I would have gotten into a lot more trouble than I did because of peer pressure and all of that. But when I was 14, my best friend, who was homeschooled as well, she started going to a public school. And that was definitely where, for me, I started getting involved in that kind of stuff. We talked to a lot of people that weren't really good, and I fell into a lot of sin, really. We started hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I never lost my faith. I always believed in God, and we always went to church every week, every Sunday. We went to confession frequently, which is something that my mom had us do always. She always made sure we went at least once a month, so that was good. But I was very involved in the things that normal teenagers are, and I rebelled a lot when I was 14, and I was really into music, a lot of punk music, really. I was one of those typical teenagers that you see in movies where the music is so loud in the room that you can hear it throughout the whole house, and so.
But your mom didn't like that very much, did she?
No, not really. I don't know, I think she just sort of figured it was what teenagers did, so it was normal, and that I'd get over it pretty soon.
And what do you think it was that kept you from losing your faith during that time?
Definitely my mom, because she did bring us up really well, so it was, I don't know, I always knew what was right. Even though I didn't always do what was right, I knew it was, I had a good conscience about it. But when my best friend started going to public school, I started hanging out with all those people, and it was definitely, I never lost the faith, but I stepped away from God a lot. I definitely did a lot of things that weren't good. And when I was 15, a year later, my mom had me move to Florida with my sister because she had just had her 2nd kid, and she was going to college, and she needed somebody to be there with her kids while she was in school. So I went and I stayed with her. And definitely, being away from my mom, it made me feel like I had more freedom than I did. And I didn't want to be in Florida, but I took it as an opportunity to, rebel a lot. So the second I got there, I cut off all my hair and dyed it purple. And, it just continued to talk to all my friends, pretty much just complaining the whole time. I made it known that I didn't want to be there. It's my sister and her family, and I was very, rude. I don't know, I made their life pretty miserable, probably. And that was when I met the Home of the Mother.
So when you were there with your sister's family, were you able to keep your prayer life up? Did you go to Sunday Mass? Did you just blow it all off since you were away from your mom? Did they have faith, and did they support you in the faith?
My sister and her family definitely had faith. They went to Mass every Sunday. I don't think it was as strong of a faith as my mom did, but they definitely they didn't keep me from going to Mass or anything. Her and her family, they always went to Mass every Sunday, and we went to confession frequently too, so it was still like the same environment kind of, but a little bit different.
So how did you go from the short hair, purple dyed hair, listening to punk music to where you're at now? How did that change happen?
Well, while I was living with my sister, one of her friends invited her to a family get-together with this movement in the church called the Home of the Mother.
And what's the Home of the Mother? Can you explain that a little bit?
The Home of the Mother is a movement in the church where they have sisters, priests, lay people, and like youth groups.
So your sister got to know this movement? Were you there with her?
I was there with her, but she didn't know who they were either.
Oh, okay.
We just sort of showed up to this get-together. And they had a couple sisters there and lay people and candidates, which are girls who are discerning to become sisters. They have taken like the first step into becoming a sister, which is what I am now. And I went to that and I thought they were cool. Like, I didn't really know what to think of them because I thought they were kind of crazy. They weren't what I expected a nun to be. Like, they were normal people, which was strange to me. I didn't really like understand how they could be normal people and like completely gods, but I just sort of accepted it. Really didn't ask them any questions about it or anything. But while I was there, they talked about World Youth Day, which was happening a year later, the next summer, and they were saying that I should go with them. And I thought it sounded cool, so I was like, yeah, I want to go to Spain, like go see a different country. I've never been outside of America, I've barely been outside of California, and so I was like, it's cool, and asked my mom, I want to go to Spain. So I continued living like the way it was, not very good, not extremely bad, but I don't know. I didn't have good ideas. I was it was really difficult for me to say no to people. They'd tell me to do something and I'd do it just because I didn't want to be that weird homeschooler that didn't try anything, or I didn't I wasn't cool because I wouldn't do these things or I wouldn't talk about certain things. So I gave into that a lot mostly because I was like, I don't want to be that weirdo that everybody thinks homeschoolers are, like long skirts and like don't know the world. Yeah. So that was really difficult for me. So going into like World Youth Day, I was still like very much like that. And my best friend ended up going with me. So we were going into World Youth Day with these like ideas of like, we're gonna go do these things, we're gonna meet all these people, and there's gonna be so much cool stuff going on. And then we get there. And first we're split up into different teams because there was like 200 girls going with the home. And so we were in completely different teams. Because there were so many of us, we had like buses taking us around and we weren't even on the same bus. So we're like, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do any of these things that we wanted to do? I don't know. And then, I don't know, so we were like kind of upset about that. And I had like the first few days, it was very difficult to get adjusted to it. And on top of that, like the sisters had us doing chores and we were like, what is going on? We had to go to mass every day. But I remember a few days into it, one of the priests gave a homily, and he said in the homily, he asked like if we were opening our hearts to God, and he's like, if you're not, the only reason you're doing it is because you're afraid of what he's going to ask of you. And I don't know why, but it really stuck with me. For like the rest of the day, I was like, why do I keep thinking about this? But afterwards, we had silent prayer for like half an hour, I think. I remember kneeling there, and I didn't really know how to pray. Even though I was like raised Catholic and like we went to mass and stuff, I didn't really know how to be quiet and just like talk to God. And I remember kneeling there, just like looking around, and I saw some of the sisters sitting in the front of like the church. And I was looking at them, and these ideas kept coming in my head. I was like, you don't know what you're doing. Like, you're about to graduate high school, you are going to start college, people keep asking you what you're going to do with your life, and you make up these answers because you want something to say to them, but you don't know what you're doing. And I kept thinking, like, that's because you're supposed to be here, and this is what you're supposed to be doing. And at first I was like, I'm going crazy. These nuns are making me think I'm going to become one of them. Like, why is this happening? It's like, if I do that, I can't do any of these things that I normally do. Like, I can't listen to music, I can't go to concerts, like, I can't be with my friends. Like, none of the things I like, I'm not going to be able to do any of it. So I was like, no, I can't do that. I'm not going to become a sister. I'm just going crazy, and let's leave it at that. But I couldn't get rid of the idea. Like, it was really, like, stuck in my head that you're supposed to be a sister. And I was like, oh.
And did you feel that coming from prayer? I mean, was that something that was coming from the Lord, or did you?
At the moment, I didn't know what it was coming from. Like, it was definitely the Lord telling me something, but in the moment, I was just like, why am I thinking this? It wasn't like this miraculous thing where I felt like God was talking to me and it was His voice or like anything like that. It's just an idea that came to my mind, and now I see that it was definitely from God. But at the time, I was like, what is this? Because God can speak to you in ways and you don't even realize it. Like, it could be in little things that happen, something that somebody says to you, and you won't realize it in the moment, but later on you'll be like, that really was from God. You don't really know when He's going to speak to you. But after that, I kept trying to like get rid of the idea, but I couldn't. So I kept like asking God to prove it to me. I was like, make this happen, make that happen, and like, everything that I asked for happened. And I was like, I'm going crazy. This isn't really happening. I'm making it up. Like, even though I was asking for specific things and they were happening, I was like, that's not real. Like, I'm just making it seem like it happened, but it didn't really happen. But it kept happening, and then eventually I was like, I need to talk to a sister. Like, I think one of the sisters needs to, like, I need to talk to somebody about this because I'm going crazy. But I was like, I'm not going to ask anyone to talk to them, though. If I'm supposed to talk to somebody, somebody's going to come talk to me. Like, I'm not going to do anything about it. If you want me to be a nun, have somebody talk to me. And then a couple of days went by, and me and some girls were like hanging out outside, just talking, whatever. And then one of the sisters comes up to us, and she's like, hey, how's it going, you guys? Are you liking the pilgrimage and all that stuff? I'm like, oh, it's nice. And she's like, hey, Dana, how's it going? I'm like, oh, it's good. And she goes, well, cool. Do you want to go for a walk with me, and we can go talk for a little bit? I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
When you know it's God's will.
Yeah. And so I've been holding it in for so long, and I didn't tell anyone. So the second we like walked away from people, I was just like, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna be a nun. Like, why is this happening to me? What is going on? And she was just like, calm down. You just have to, be open about it. If this is what God wants, He's not gonna ask something of you that you can't do. Like, you have to be open. You have to, pray about it, see what happens, ask Him to like show you that it's like for real, that this is what He wants. So I went away with like, I don't know, I guess I felt a little better, but it wasn't like everything was clear to me that I was supposed to be a sister or anything, or that I needed to change my life, which was definitely something I needed to do. But that night we had adoration, and I remember kneeling there, because we were in like this big parking lot area, and we were all kneeling on the ground. And I remember the second our Lord was exposed, just like feeling Him there. Like, I knew He was there. I believed He was there. Like, I grew up being told that this was all real. But in that moment, I truly felt that God was there, and I knew exactly what He was telling me. And I started bawling. Like, I was crying uncontrollably. It was like one of those really nasty cries where like you like look really gross and you can't breathe.
Don't want anybody to see you.
And like there's like 200 people around me, so I'm like, why am I crying like this? Stop. But I knew what He was asking me, and I couldn't say no anymore. So I remember being like, okay, if this is what you want, I'll do it. I won't fight it anymore. If this is what you want, make it happen. But the only thing I ask of you is that you make me want it, because I really hate the idea. I hate the idea of leaving everything, of not being able to do what I want. Like, just make me want it, because I really don't want it. After like saying yes, it was just like this huge relief. Like, I didn't like want it still, but I knew that it was the right thing. And like I felt so relieved, like I'm not fighting anymore. This is so good. Like, but my best friend, that night she saw me. Like, she didn't see me crying or anything, but she saw me, and it was really strange. Like, she looked at me and she was like, "What's going on?" Like, what?
Tell there was a change there.
Yeah. And I was just like, "Oh, nothing," you know. She's like, they started talking about like entering the home as like a youth, which is, there's a movement in the home where the home of the youth, where you have commitments, daily prayer and like spiritual reading and stuff like that. And I knew right away that I was supposed to be a part of it. And so she saw me and she's like, "Are you gonna enter? Like, what's going on?" And I was like, "Yeah, maybe." And she's like, "But are you gonna enter like as a sister?" And I was like, "No." I don't know if that's what God wants. Why are you asking me this? Because even though I knew, like, I was like, my friends can't know that. They can't know that I'm thinking about this.
And why not? Were you afraid?
I was really afraid, especially because it was really hard for me to tell people no, and I was really like, my image was a big thing for me, and I didn't like to be the person that was outside of everybody else. I always wanted to fit in, like, so to be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a sister," I was like, I don't think so. Can't tell anybody that. But yeah, but eventually towards the end, I was very like happy with my vocation. God made it clear to me that I wouldn't be happy unless I became a sister, unless I like gave my life to Him, that I would never truly be happy. So I was really like excited to be a sister at the end of the pilgrimage. But at the same time, I was 16, and my mom would never let me enter as a candidate at that time. So I went home thinking like, well, when I become older, I'll enter as a sister, or as a candidate to become a sister. And so I still have time to like, not be a sister. And when I got home, I was very much like a very good foundation. Like, I was very set on my ways. I was like, I'm gonna have daily prayer, I'm gonna go to mass every day, and I like all these things. And for a while I like kept it up, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch TV, I can't be on the internet, I can't listen to any of this music. Like, on the way home with my best friend, we were on the plane, and we had one of those planes with their own like TV, and they had CDs on it and stuff, and she was listening to music, and I'm like, I can't do that. I'm gonna sleep this whole time, so I don't have to do any, like, I'm not gonna do any of that. I was very like set that I was supposed to be good. I had to change my life, I can't do anything. And so that lasted for a little while, for a few months. And then I remember being like, well, this CD's not that bad, so I can listen to it. Which is like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of teenagers don't realize how bad music is, how much it does affect you. Because even like that, just listening to that one CD, I could tell like the difference. I could tell that I was going to fall back into the way I was. I was going to do like all the things that I didn't want to do anymore. But I didn't notice it in the moment, but I can see now that like even just listening to some things that you don't think are really bad, it can really like affect you. So slowly I started like losing my consciousness of my vocation, and I stopped wanting it. And so slowly I started slipping away from everything again, and I started hanging out with my friends again, and I was going to a lot of concerts, and I was like, I did everything I did before, but like 10 times worse, because I knew that I wasn't supposed to do it, and I knew that I had a vocation, and I was doing it so that I couldn't think about it. So I was going worse and worse into things because I didn't want to say yes to God anymore. I was like, I can't be a sister. So I started college. I took a few classes at a community college, and I got a job, and I started making plans for the future. I'm like, well, if I work for this long, I can get a car, and then I can finish college, and then I'll be able to do all these things, and like continue to go to concerts, and like dyed my hair again, and you know, just all this stuff. I was like, going as far as I could. And then, but when I first got back home, my mom realized that I had a vocation. Like, on the way home from the airport, she asked me, she's like, do you have a vocation?
Well, this is pretty intuitive.
Yeah. And I told her yes, like, because I was so sure of it then, that I was like, yes, I have a vocation. Like, I'm supposed to be a servant sister. This is what I need to do. And she was very supportive of it. Like, she didn't like it, like, because it involved me leaving, and it would be difficult, because the home is in Spain. Like the mother house is in Spain. So that was really difficult for her to be like, I'm gonna let my 16-year-old go and enter an order that's like so far away. But she was very accepting of it. And when I started like rebelling again, and I started getting into all these things, I did, and going to a lot of concerts, and like a really bad attitude again, and I was like not very nice to my brothers or all that stuff. She realized why I was doing it. She understood that I was fighting my vocation. And it got to the point where she was like, you need to go back to Spain. She told me, if you don't go, you're never gonna know what God wants of you, and you're not gonna be happy. Like, you won't be able to figure out what it is you're supposed to do with your life unless you go back and see what it is that He wants. And I didn't like that at all. The fact that she was making me go back, I was like, no, I don't want to know. I've been like avoiding this. I avoided prayer. I didn't want to do anything. Like, I couldn't be in silence, because whenever I was in silence, God would be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you running away from everything? So the fact that she was forcing me to go to Spain was like a big thing for me. So right before going to Spain, I quit my job and all that, and I dyed my hair, so it was like blonde. And I painted my nails, and so I arrived to Spain to like stay with these sisters. I had my nails like painted black and my hair dyed and my Chuck Taylors and my zip-up hoodie and like really bad attitude. And all the sisters were like, what's going on?
Who are you?
Why are you here? And when I would say, I'm here to discern my vocation, they're like, really? Are you really? Like, sisters tell me now, they're like, when you got here, you seem like a girl who was like forced to be here, not like someone who was discerning their vocation. But once I got here, I don't know, I saw the sisters and I knew just like right away. The first night I got here, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Why was I fighting it so much? And the sisters have holy hour every morning. And every morning I would be there in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and I knew what God was telling me. He was like, I want you to be mine. I want you to be completely mine. And it scared me, because I was one of those people that if I were to do something, it had to be forever. Like, I couldn't change my mind. If it was something I wanted, or if I was going to do it, I had to do it like for real. And so it took me a long time. I was like, I can't say yes to you, because I changed my mind so fast last time. Like, how do I know that I'm not going to do it again? How do I know that I'm going to say yes now, and then a month later I'm not going to want it anymore? So I was like, I can't do anything. I can't promise you forever, because I don't know what I'm doing. But every day he would like reassure me. It's like, this is what you're supposed to do. This is where you're supposed to be. Like, why can't you see that? And towards the end of the month, I don't know. We had a retreat with little kids, and I saw some of the candidates who were like in charge of all of it, and just the way that they treated them, the way that they were like, I don't know, the way they presented themselves, how they were like so in love and like with God, that they wanted to share it with everybody. I remember seeing them and just being like, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Why do you think so many young people these days are so afraid of the vocation to religious life?
Because they don't know anything about it. You see it as like not being able to do anything, which was definitely what I saw it as too. But really, I've never been happier than when I gave myself to God. When I told Him that I'd be completely His, I can't imagine like living any other way. Like, it's not something that everybody can do, obviously. Some people are called to marriage, but when you're called to God, you'll know it. And like, when you say yes, it's like the most freeing thing ever. You think of it as something that'll like keep you back, but you don't feel like, never felt any freer than when I said yes to God.
What would you say to a young person who's watching this program right now and maybe has purple hair as well and is thinking, gosh, that's exactly what I'm going through, and they're in that rebellious stage where they're fighting against it and fighting. What would you, just a few words that you would say to them to help them out?
Definitely to not ever stop praying, because that's something that's really difficult like that moment of silence. You always need that to be able to talk to God, to be able to like to see things clearly. Because if you keep going and like you never stop to think, you'll never see anything clearly. You'll never like be able to hear God if you don't allow Him to speak to you. You might always think like, God's not talking to me. He's not like, I'm not anything. He's not asking anything of me. Because that's what I thought. But once you get that moment of silence, you can really hear Him, and He'll speak to you. Like if you're willing, He'll tell you what you're supposed to do, and He'll never tell you to do anything that you can't do.
Just like Dana was saying, that you just shouldn't be afraid to give yourself, and that God will never ever ask you something that you can't do. And as well, I really liked Dana's story, how a lot of times I think when we are walking down the street and we are going through a busy day, and sometimes we see somebody maybe with short purple hair, we automatically judge them by their look, by their appearance, and I think it's beautiful. God never judges us, no matter what we do, no matter what crazy color we dye our hair, that God still continues to pursue us and to love us no matter what, and how a lot of times that's just the exterior rebellion, but that inside the Lord never stops pursuing the soul that He wants. So just open your hearts, like Dana heard at World Youth Day, to open your hearts and to not be afraid what God's asking of you. And we'll see you on the next show with our next passenger.